get started, the board meeting of the Board of Education for October 12, 2021 is called to order. For tonight's meeting, any item that will be voted on has been posted on the PPS website under the Board and Meetings tabs. This meeting is being streamed live on PPS TV Services website and on Channel 28 and will be replayed throughout the next 2 weeks. Please check the district website for replay times. As of August 13th, Governor Kate Brown reinstated a statewide indoor mask requirement for all indoor public settings, whether vaccinated or not, in order to stop the highly contagious COVID Delta variant from spreading further. Tonight, we have in place mitigation strategies to help keep safe members of the public and the staff. Board members and staff in attendance are wearing masks, and most, if not all, are vaccinated fully. We have air purifiers placed in the boardroom, and we have ample space for you to spread out tonight for social distancing, and appreciate you doing so. Good evening, everyone. I want to welcome the board, the superintendent, staff, families, students, and guests. Before we get started this evening, I want to take a moment to highlight Superintendent Guerrero's recent national title of 2021 Superintendent of the Year from the Association of Latino Administrators and Superintendents. I had the honor of attending this ceremony this past Saturday at the 18th Annual Association of Latino Administrators and Superintendents National Conference. Superintendent Guerrero has been the right leader for the district during a pivotal time in our district and our city's fight for racial justice and social equity. His laser focus to improve our school district is unquestionable. Because of his leadership, our district is leading the way with a community-informed vision and a focused strategic plan. I want to extend my sincere congratulations to the superintendent for having received this national honor, and I could not be more proud personally. I have a small token of appreciation from the board. And it's just a photo of your And I want to just say a few unscripted comments. And not only am I very proud and really grateful to have attended, I know as an employee that no one wants to work for someone that doesn't, no one wants to work for supervisors that don't appreciate your work and don't recognize it. I would like to see a regular acknowledgement of the superintendent once a year. I've worked for a variety of supervisors and managers in my time as an employee, and I've had people, bosses that just put truffles on your desk a couple times a year. I've had other people just do other small acts of appreciation, and I just want to personally appreciate the service that you give to this district 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Your work ethic is really strong, and I just personally appreciate what I've noticed in my short time on the board, particularly as the chair. So just thank you. Tonight I'm sitting in thanks and gratitude. I know it's been a really tough year. Everyone's having a tough year, and I want to say one more word about that, but I want to let Vice Chair Scott say a few words as well.
Thanks, and I'll be really brief and also unscripted, but it's an amazing award and one that I think we need to recognize as a board and as a community for the work that your peers obviously see you do. But one of the things that's been so impressive to me as when I started 2 years ago is that you aren't just a leader on racial equity here in the district. That's true, and I see that in your work every day, but you've become a leader on racial equity in the region and the state. And whether it was, speaking up early on around Black Lives Matter, speaking out against hate crimes in our community, being willing to to make yourself vulnerable in those moments, that it's not that when you make those statements, they go noticed by the right people, and they also go noticed by the wrong people. And I know you've come under, withering criticism, and yet you've still been willing to put yourself out there. And I want to make sure, as Chair DePass said, that the right people are also recognizing what you're doing, and that you're hearing that from us, that is so important for us as a district, but it's important for us as a state, and it's important nationally as well. And it's a really well-deserved honor. So thank you for doing that and putting yourself out there.
Thank you. And I'm sorry.
Bravo, bravo. We're very proud of you and grateful for you.
Yes, very much so. I also want to say that we are all sitting here collectively experiencing a global pandemic. And to that end, the board, I've asked for people to reduce our demands on staff. Staff, we're one of many industries that are having staff shortages for bus drivers, for teachers and substitutes. And I'm just asking, holding myself accountable to be graceful, and asking my board colleagues, asking those in the audience, asking our community to please extend grace in these extraordinary times. This isn't business as usual right now, and I think we all know that. We're experiencing it. I'm fairly even-tempered, and I'm almost at the end of my rope personally. So I'm just sharing that to recognize that we're in hard times and to ask for grace from my colleagues and from you and from people watching, families, students. Let's get through this together. The fighting and the throwing rocks at each other is not working.
Michelle, I just want to say, as you say that, and as we talked about Superintendent Guerrero's work ethic, that BESC staff and other leaders are stepping up and going into schools, and that's part of the reason we're really trying to let staff be student-centered. And so I just really appreciate that our area superintendents, our chief of schools, all of our folks are doing things like lunch duty and recess duty and helping support. So again, this is a district under Superintendent Guerrero's leadership that lives out that value of being student-centered. And so just appreciative to you, Superintendent Guerrero, but to all the staff that are going above and beyond in this time.
Thank you. And I think I mentioned that to just reiterate that if staff is not at their desk and they have a teaching license, they're in schools. And so that goes for our demands in terms of committee meetings and our other obligations here is to be mindful of the fact that staff is not at their desk because they're serving kids directly.
Director DePass, if I may, or Chair DePass. Thank you for the comments. I really appreciate support from this particular school board. This recognition from National ALAS was unexpected. I'm honored to be recognized by colleagues around the country. But as I said then, and thank you, Chair DePass, for representing the school board at the awards. When a school system and a city can align the stars enough, between educators and leaders and elected school board members and engaged community around a shared vision, great things can happen. Great progress can be made. So I'm glad to play my part. It is all hands on deck. I loved spending my morning at Alliance today, for instance, just like I know this building is empty because everybody's out at schools right now trying to pitch in. But thank you for recognizing, we don't do this work as public servants for accolades, but when your work gets recognized by your peers or by your bosses, that's always appreciated. So thank you very much.
You're very welcome on behalf of all of us. Tonight we'll begin with a resolution which recognizes October as Dyslexia Awareness Month. Superintendent Guerrero, would you like to introduce this resolution?
I would. Thank you, Chair DePass. And I didn't say good evening, directors. I can't think of a better person to actually introduce this resolution on Dyslexia Awareness Month than Elizabeth Martin. If she can come up. Most of you are aware, but Elizabeth plays the role of program administrator for our dyslexia efforts here at PPS, and there's been such an incredible amount of progress and body of work in this area in particular with our students foremost, who will have the benefit, our educators who are getting some incredible professional learning, and just the engagement with our families and advocates in this area. So thank you, Elizabeth, for your work, and she's going to highlight what this resolution is hoping to commemorate.
And it seems like she brought her own cheering section with her as well.
Thank you very, very much for having me here tonight. Being in person is amazing. I'm just going to say it. I've loved being in our schools, and it's great to be here with you right now. Some new faces, welcome. Nice seeing you, and I look forward to our partnership. And congratulations, Superintendent. That's quite an honor, and I appreciate all your support to this district the last 4 years. I'm just going to share a quick highlight, one quick highlight. I know you have a lot on your agenda tonight, but right now, live at pps.net/dyslexia is our new and improved dyslexia webpage. And last winter and spring, amidst everything, Lippy starting, vaccines rolling out, kids going into hybrid, a group of teachers, leaders, and family advocates came together, and we dreamed what we would want on a website to truly raise better awareness and support our students, our families, and our educators with building their awareness around dyslexia, as well as learning what we're doing in our district to support it. And so it is live. You'll notice that there is a page for students, specifically around how they can advocate for themselves, how they can understand what dyslexia could mean for them as students in the classroom. We have a page for families so they learn it better and understand what we're doing as a district to support their students. And we have a page for educators so they can know exactly where to go. We have a feedback loop. And over the summer, I partnered with someone in IT to put it all together, all the thinking of that 10-group committee that came together. And over the course of the year, we'll add more content. We'll come back as a team, look at it, review it, edit it, make it better. And so I have a list of names. I hope it's okay to thank them real quick. Lorraine Allen, Jennifer Hernandez, Elizabeth Israel Davis, Melinda Lepore, Lisa Lyon, Leif Solquist, Marty Stockton, Kathy Wyrick, and Shelley Zucker. Thank you to all of them for helping, and we're just really excited to continue to realize the goals of our dyslexia priority plan. So thank you for this important proclamation.
Thank you, Ms. Martin. Thank you. Do I have a motion and a second to adopt Resolution 6375, resolution to designate October 2021 as Dyslexia Awareness Month?
So moved.
Second.
Director Scott moves, Director Lowry seconds. The adoption of Resolution 6375. Is there any board discussion? Seeing none, Ms. Powell, is there any public comment?
No, there is not. Chair to pass on discussion. I just wanted to to really appreciate our parent agitators who really moved the district. Lisa Lyons in particular was just called out, who was a lone voice when I first joined the board, and really created an incredible parent movement to advocate for their children who were not getting the resources and support that they needed. So I'm really proud that the district has stepped up in the way that we have, and that there's such a structure for these kind of supports. But also to all those dogged parents out there just working and advocating on behalf of your students, thank you very much. You made a huge impact.
The board will now vote on Resolution 6375, resolution to designate October 2021 as Dyslexia Awareness Month. The Portland Public Schools Board of Education recognizes that dyslexia has significant educational implications that must be addressed, and designates October 2021 as Dyslexia Awareness Month. All in favor, please indicate by saying yes.
Yes.
Yes. All opposed, please indicate by saying no. Resolution 6375 is approved by a vote of Director Brim Edwards.
I
And
voted
you're-
yes. Thank you.
Vote yes, thank you. So Resolution 6375 is approved by a vote of 7-0, with Student Representative Weinberg voting
Yes.
yes. Thank you. We have another proclamation for National Principals Month. Tonight we begin with a resolution which recognizes October as National Principals Month. Superintendent Guerrero, would you like to introduce this resolution?
It would be my honor. Well, aside from the direct connection between our educators and our students, I would argue that key change engines in any school system are school leaders, principals, assistant principals, vice principals. Not only are they tasked with being instructional leaders, they have to handle all the operational managerial that comes with a campus, but they're also mentors. They're also role models. So we're so pleased to be able to honor them here with this resolution. Dr. Sean Bird is going to say a few more words about our school leaders.
Good evening, Chair DePass, Board Director
and Superintendent Guerrero. Each October, we get to celebrate the amazing work of our school leaders during National Principals Month. The work of the principal is essential to a successful school, and I couldn't be more proud of the school-based leaders here in Portland Public Schools. While the job is not easy in normal times, the pandemic has particularly been a challenging time to be a school leader. But our PPS leaders have risen to the challenge and persevered and been advocates for their school communities throughout the pandemic, and have risen to innumerable challenges before them, whether it was comprehensive distance learning, hybrid instruction, or the monumental task of returning to school when, in addition to their normal duties, they're also contact tracers, substitute teachers, space planners, and social distance monitors in order to ensure the safety and well-being of the children in their care. Principals create the conditions on their campuses so that teachers can create magic in their classrooms. In fact, after the classroom teacher, the principal has the greatest influence on student achievement. We're fortunate to have such dedicated leadership at our schools, and tonight we have the opportunity to say thank you to our school leaders for all that they do to advance student achievement and care for their communities. I urge you to adopt this resolution as you're out and about this month in your schools. Please take a moment to thank a principal, vice principal, and assistant principal. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Bird. I'm really appreciating this employee appreciation trend I'm seeing tonight. It's overdue, and I know principals, I love that you've listed out the multiplicity of positions they're taking on. So thank you very much for that. Thank you, principals. We see you out there. Hang in there. Do I have a motion and a second to adopt Resolution 6376, resolution to recognize October 21 as National Principals Month in Portland Public Schools?
Motion.
Second?
Director Hollins moves, and Director Scott seconds the adoption of Resolution 6376. Is there any board discussion?
I just want to echo what you said, Chair DePass, that our principals are amazing and are wearing many hats, and just we're so grateful for the work they do in leading in their buildings to help serve students. So thank you very much to all of our principals.
Ms. Powell, is there any public comment?
No, there isn't.
So the board will now vote on Resolution 6376, resolution to recognize October 2021 as National Principals Month in Portland Public Schools. The Board of Education recognizes October 21 as National Principals Month and extends sincere appreciation and gratitude to school principals, vice principals, and assistant principals for their individual and collective commitment to the success of every student in Portland Public Schools. All in favor, please indicate by saying yes.
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 Yes. All opposed, please indicate by saying no. Are there any abstentions? Resolution 6376 is approved by a vote of 7-0 with Student Representative Weinberg voting.
Yes.
Thank you. Next, the board will vote on consent agenda. Board members, if there are any items you'd like to pull for discussion, we'll set those aside for discussion and vote at the end of the meeting. Ms. Powell, are there any changes to the consent agenda?
No.
Board members, are there any items you'd like to pull from the consent agenda? Do I have a motion and a second to adopt the consent agenda?
So moved?
Second?
Director Constam moves. Director Scott seconds the adoption of the consent agenda. Is there any board discussion of the consent agenda?
Yeah, I have a couple comments. I know here we're talking about identifying certified businesses, and I know this is really considered for Oregon certified businesses. But there's a few on here that are certified businesses, but they're not necessarily an Oregon certified business. So I don't know if that's something that we can incorporate, saying, okay, this might be an outside Oregon certified business, but I just wanted to make sure we're acknowledging that, because there's like 3 of them here that we researched that are certified businesses. They're just not Oregon certified businesses.
I really appreciate that, because that's the one thing that I asked for that column to be included so we could know where we're spending our dollars, so we could hopefully see that we were, making an effort to spend dollars in minority-owned and women-owned businesses. We have a lot of money that goes through our organization. And so I don't know, I think it would behoove businesses to get certified in Oregon, depending on if they're woman-owned or minority-owned or service disabled veteran, whatever their status is. It would be great. I don't know if you have connections, but it would be great for them to be certified here, so we can document that we're spending dollars in those communities. I'm sorry, just lost my place. Is there, we're getting ready to vote. Yeah, just bear with me for just a moment. And thank you for your comments. That's a big concern of mine as well. Just from an equity perspective and a sustainability and a economic development, it's all important to me. Okay, so there is no public comment on the consent agenda.
Yes, oh, sorry. We do have
however-
one person signed up for public comment.
Okay,
We have Beth Blumklotz.
I'm having a difficult time hearing you.
Yes. We have Beth Blumklotz.
Good evening.
Hi.
Hi.
I'm
Will you?
smiling. I don't know why I'm thinking you can see it.
We can see it, and we appreciate that. If you just don't mind stating your name.
I'm
Yeah.
Beth Blumklotz,
Okay.
and a special ed school bus driver.
James Applehands, special ed school bus driver as well.
Okay. We just wanted to, well, for those who don't know, we just had a bargaining moment, and it was one of the briefest. It was great. We appreciate it. We appreciate you all. And it's customary for us to want to show appreciation along the way. For those who don't know us, Jimmy and I have been participating with our union 6 years now, maybe. And the first big negotiation for us, and we were learning along the way, and we were coming to the school board meetings and really trying to help you all understand who we are as a group, collectively, Transportation Department for Special Education, as well as to increase the visibility of who we are and how we contribute to the entire organization of Portland Public Schools. And we invited several of you, and several of you came and did ride-alongs with us, and that is open to all of you, of course, once it's more safe to do so. It really is a great way to see in live action what we do, how we impact our students, how they impact us. And yes, they're students, but they're still kids. And a lot of us are parents, a lot of us are working in the district, and we just want to know that when we send our kids away to school, that they're in a safe place. And I know the superintendent had an opportunity to do that, and he got to see firsthand a student kind of making sounds and hitting the side of the bus and for the entire ride. And the appreciation I think that people get for school bus drivers in general, just from having that kind of experience, it increases, and it's a benefit to all of us to kind of cross-train and so forth. I also appreciate, and Jimmy and I know we both do, the diversity that is increasing with the school board, and I appreciate you, Superintendent, as well. I'm glad that you've been honored, because I do feel like even though we don't always agree with everything, that your intention is positive, and that you are taking steps going towards the right direction. So we appreciate you for that. Thank you for the increase with wages. We're hoping that drivers will stay, as well as we can attract new ones. We really have been trying to share for the last years that it's so much easier to retain than it is to market, hire, train. We spend so much more money as a school district, and so hopefully this will really help to maintain. The job out there, it is a bit of a challenge with COVID, and that's nobody's fault. We have students who don't wear masks. Some students, they're not able to, keep it on, or don't have, the wherewithal to understand the purpose. And so, we have drivers who feel uncomfortable and so forth. So we'll see how everything rolls out after the 18th. We're hopeful that everything will continue to go in the right direction and keep going up. We also appreciate when we were bargaining, Genevieve encouraged us that you all want us to start bargaining again at the beginning of the year. Our regular contract does expire and renew July 1st. So we are thankful for that we won't have to go past July 1st. Put that in your calendars. We just wanted to say thank you for the amount of respect that being invited to the table of some of these meetings that we've been having over, during Lippy and during hybrid, and trying to make decisions of what's best and delivering the food and everything. We appreciate being invited to those conversations more than in previous years. And is there anything else? Or I think we...
Yeah, in general, it's a very tangible way to say we appreciate you and we feel it. So not every time you see the yellow shirts, you need to be worried. Sometimes we're here to say thank you. I can't guarantee what 2 weeks will show, but from the bottom of our hearts, thank you. We feel appreciated from this movement. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
I'd like
Thank you.
to say, tonight it would be nice. We could wear a yellow T-shirt as well. Say this is what solidarity looks like.
Hey, yeah, no problem. Just give us your sizes. We'll take care of it. And of course, our brothers and sisters in the district, custodians, nutrition service workers, paras, we definitely would like to see them be able to have that assistance as well financially. So thank you so much.
Thank you for being here tonight.
Yep.
Thank you so much for all you do.
Yep. Thank you.
The board will now vote on resolutions 6377 through 6380 and 6383 through 6384. All in favor, please indicate by saying yes.
Yes.
Yes. All opposed, please indicate by saying no. Are there any abstentions? The consent agenda is approved by a vote of 7-0, with Student Representative Weinberg voting.
Yes.
Thank you. We now turn to student and public comment. Before we begin, I'd like to review our guidelines for public comment. First, the board thanks you for taking time to attend the meeting and provide your comments. Public input informs and improves our work, and we look forward to hearing your thoughts, reflections, and concerns. Our responsibility in the moment is to actively listen, and to that end, I would ask that we tuck our phones away during testimony so we can give our full attention to the people in front of us. Our board office may follow up on board-related issues raised during public testimony, and we request that complaints about individual employees please be directed to the superintendent's office as a personnel matter. If you have additional materials or supporting items you'd like to provide to the board or the superintendent, we ask that you email them to publiccomment, all one word, at pps.net, publiccomment@pps.net. And please make sure when you begin that your comment that you clearly state your name and spell your last name. You'll have 3 minutes to speak, and you'll hear a sound and you'll see a light, a red light, when it's time for you to wrap up. Ms. Powell, do we have anyone signed up for student or public comment?
Yes, we have one student, Xander Levine.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
it. Hello again. This might be the last time this month you'll hear from me. That's because of the new limit on student public comment. I want to start by saying that I find this to be unfair. Although I've been able to speak at the past several meetings, that's only because I've signed up on time well in advance. You might be happy that you don't have to hear from me every other week. However, you should not limit students who want to speak every other week just to leave space for students who might sign up late. I should not be limited on my speech because I'm on top of it and sign up early and on time. With that said, I'm not here today to encourage you to just think about the COVID-19 vaccine mandate. I'm here to demand that you mandate the COVID-19 vaccine for all eligible PPS students by December 1st. And for those who do qualify for a valid exemption, require them to get tested every week by that same deadline of December 1st. The first sentence of your own mission statement is as follows. It is the core mission and responsibility of our school system to ensure that every student has the opportunity to thrive and experience success. Students cannot thrive and experience success if unvaccinated students come into school and spread a deadly airborne virus to other students. Students don't have the opportunity to thrive if they contract COVID in school and are forced to stay home. Some say vaccination should be solely the parent's choice, but what if the parent's choice of not vaccinating their child puts an entire school at risk? On my way over here, I got an email from my school notifying me that there's yet another positive case. Some say this displaces marginalized groups of students because they won't get vaccinated and will be forced out of school. How about go into schools, teach about why this vaccine is so safe and effective, and that followed up by regular on-site clinics? Put yourself in the shoes of students. Pretend you're scared out of your mind every single day to walk into school because you think you're going to get COVID. Think about how good it would be if you could walk into school knowing that the whole school is either vaccinated and those who aren't are tested every week. That would be great for student mental health. You have the chance right now to make every school safer. You need to center students and student safety. Although parents' opinions are important to an extent, parents are not the ones sitting in school all day and walking through crowded hallways. I am the one sitting in school all day and walking through hallways. Mandating the vaccine and requiring all students who qualify for exemptions to get tested weekly would be centering students. PPS needs to take a more aggressive approach and action to protect students from this deadly virus. That action is a vaccine or testing mandate. I don't want to get this I don't want to get this virus. I don't want my friends to get this virus. I don't want my family to get this virus. I don't want anyone to get this virus, especially from an in-school setting. Please, please mandate the vaccine and lead by example for other school districts. Thank you. See you in 30 days.
Thank you.
Chair DePass or General Counsel Large, can you please inform us about any changes to our policies around student testimony? That's the first I've heard of that from Xander.
Shall I go ahead? So yeah, we've had discussion about especially when we have a lot of students, a lot of people signed up, of limiting single voices, or just to offer opportunity to hear from more voices.
I don't support any limit on student testimony.
Okay, well, thank you for your opinion. I guess
Maybe
I
we
would
could have a board discussion about that. Not now, but at some point.
I would be interested in having a discussion as well. Moving on, it looks like I'm having a hard time reading. I'm having a difficult time reading my, do we have additional comment?
Yes, we have 6 people signed up for public comment. The first is Carmen Von Arks.
Hello.
VONARX. Dear PPS and board members, district travel office, and others, our coach was recently discouraged from applying to take our Grant varsity basketball team to a tournament often attended through the years, saying it would be denied by the district travel office. We would like to make sure that doesn't happen. The Tarkanian Classic in Vegas is December 17th through the 21st. This would be the second year our players would be unable to participate. While we appreciate that you are making a decision you feel is the best interest of the students, we want to make sure that you understand the full ramifications of denying our players this opportunity. In a conversation with the Tarkanian Classic representatives, we discovered that not one team in the whole nation has pulled out of the tournament. Every other team that has signed up will be competing, including 19 teams from California and 10 from Washington. Football teams in our own state and districts around the Portland area have been traveling to games out of the state. A cross-country team in our own district has also traveled out of state. Why has PPS made this decision regarding other teams? We would like our student athletes to have this opportunity. As one of the top teams in Oregon, playing at a national level is an important chance for our grant players to get noticed by college coaches. This missed opportunity for our student athletes is more significant than for teams asking to attend a simple camp or band trip. This is missing out on being seen and garnering attention from the college programs they hope to attend. Students in this age group have been had so much taken away over these last 2 years. There has been little chance for them to be seen by college coaches. With fewer spots on teams, this has become even more difficult. Sports can be a great equalizer, but often shows inequities when it comes to opportunity. And equity is a factor in this decision, and that merits further scrutiny. For some grant students that have the funds, they're able to go and travel and take the opportunities to be seen by coaches, while others who do not have that option. Attending competitive tournaments gets players noticed by college coaches. The timing of the pandemic and restrictions on travel have put additional obstacles in the path of playing basketball beyond high school and pursuing a college degree. Whether or not Grant participates in the Tarkanian Classic in Las Vegas, the risks of exposure to this virus remains. Some players already travel. They already go to other states. They would be coming back anyway. This puts their grant teammates at the same risks as if they were to go. Other PIL student athletes and players from all over Oregon continue to participate in out-of-state competitions. All of our players are vaccinated, ride on buses together in small spaces, spend countless hours together, and some players have already traveled safely with their families and club teams without spreading the virus. We will be back 12 days before they go back to school, which is the 10-day recommended period, and we would be willing to test all students when they came back. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. I also want to make a correction to what I said about students. This, I guess it's a directive or wish, is to limit testimony to once a month per person. We're a district that has 50,000 students in it. It's a rule to not to stomp on anybody's speech, but to allow the floor to be, and testimony to be heard from a wide variety of stakeholders, including students, staff, members of the public, parents. And we're talking about equity, and this is how you operationalize that. This is how you make that happen. It's obviously and honestly not an opportunity, not a chance to squash your testimony. We've made that decision so we can hear from all of our stakeholders.
I would also like to add that I didn't get a chance to read it because the time was up, but we have many families that have already paid, and the students have already fundraised for this. We weren't told ahead of time that this would be an issue, and so we have a lot of people out of a lot of money if they don't get to go. Anyway, just wanted to add that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is Eric Peterson. Gwen Vilches.
Hello, my name is Gwen Vilches. Thank you. I'm going to read this letter that I wrote that you all should have received from last week or last time. I'm writing this letter to encourage you all to take a prudent and precautionary approach to the consideration of mandating COVID vaccines in children. I will start with some quotes from a Medscape article from June 14th. Dr. Messner, who is a Vaccine and Related Biological Products Advisory Committee of the FDA, stated, "I just want to be sure the price we pay for vaccinating millions of children justifies the side effects, and I don't think we know that yet." He's the chief of the Division of Pediatric Infectious Diseases at Tufts Medical Center. Also, Dr. Peter Doshi, assistant professor of pharmaceutical health services in Maryland, said, "The FDA can only approve a medical product in a population if the benefit outweighs the risk in that population. If benefits don't outweigh risks in children, it can't be indicated for children, full stop." In the above statements, Dr. Meissner and Doshi are participating in the precautionary principle. which has its roots in the word foresight. The precautionary principle in its simplest form states when an activity raises threats of harm to human health or the environment, precautionary measures should be taken, even if some cause and effect relationships are not fully established. I urge each one of you to use the precautionary principle of foresight in making this grave decision that places mandates on the children of Portland Public Schools. I have a few points to make. Firstly, that the mandate the board is considering is based on the faulty premise that the COVID vaccine prevents infection and transmission. It is clear now, even to the general public through the CDC, that the vaccines do not prevent infection or transmission. In fact, they were never designed to do so. The vaccines were designed to prevent severe clinical symptoms and death. What we have come to accept is that the vaccine is only beneficial to the person receiving it. It doesn't protect others in the greater community as we had hoped. Therefore, mandating this vaccine to all PPS students will not stop transmission or infection, which is what I would think you guys were wanting to do. The other fact that plays into this is that the vaccinated and unvaccinated people can both get and give COVID. So using the precaution, what then is the benefit of mandating a vaccine that won't stop infection or transmission? The second point to make is that healthy children under the age of 18 have a very low risk of severe symptoms or death. In Oregon and across the nation, the mortality rate for children, and this is all from the CDC website, is a 0.01%. That means that there is a 99.99% survival rate for children from this disease. As of September 16th, just go on to the next thing. We don't know if there will be any long-term or effects of this vaccine. And the biggest thing that they're finding is that myocarditis can be very, very dangerous.
I'm going to have to ask you to wrap up your comments, but I appreciate your being here.
Okay.
Thank you.
So mandatory and exclusionary policies that restrict access.
Ms. Vilchis?
Oh, I thought you said I had
No,
a few more
I
minutes.
said
Okay.
I appreciate your being here and that you'll have to wrap up your comments. So we
Okay.
allow everyone to speak for 3 minutes.
Right, okay.
And your buzzer
So
went off.
I'm done.
Okay,
Okay.
just to let you know.
All right.
Thank you.
Please use the precautionary principle. Thank you.
Thank you.
Chair to pass, if I can, I think it's really important. During our public health session a couple weeks ago, one of our public health advisors stated unequivocally that the vaccine does in fact lower risk of infection and transmission. I know there were careful words there used about stopping versus lowering, but I just want to make sure that we aren't repeating misinformation publicly in this forum that is actually not true. So I just want to be clear that the public health specialist advising the district made it very clear the vaccines do not stop it, but they do reduce transmission and reduce infection, which is a very important public health benefit.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Next, we have Catherine Gentle.
Hi, thank you. My name's Catherine. I'm a proud mom of a vibrant Portland public middle schooler. I do not consent to the requiring of a COVID-19 vaccine for students to attend school. It's unlawful, highly unethical, and an overstep of the district and board's granted authority and responsibilities. You're tasked to represent a population that is as diverse in needs as they are in perspectives and experience. There is no one-size-fits-all. There is a large segment that has great alarm over these inoculations, and many have been advised not to take them by their trusted healthcare professionals. A decision to force an experimental injection with undisclosed ingredients on children which cannot be reversed or otherwise lose the right to an education.
Would you please put your mask back on?
Or otherwise lose the right to an education would set a very dangerous precedent. It goes against our God-given birthrights, those guaranteed by our Constitution and Bill of Rights. It directly violates the Nuremberg Code. No action or policy should ever be instituted which trespasses on these non-negotiable and inalienable rights, period. Medical intervention will always be a choice based on informed consent and made solely by the individual with their chosen healthcare provider. ORS 431.180 requires this by stating that interference with an individual's selection of healthcare provider, treatment, or religious practice is prohibited. I must be honest, I'm quite alarmed at the degree of confirmation bias in the 928 work session, seemingly curated with the CDC, seemingly curated with a panel of experts in complete lockstep with the CDC. Zero representation or dialogue disclosing the many differing conclusions and data revelations directly experienced by hundreds, if not thousands, of highly censored health experts and doctors from around the world who differ greatly with the CDC and make it quite clear that these vaccines are no more safe than they are effective. In fact, the overwhelming evidence points to significant adverse side effects post-inoculation and a 1,000-fold increase in vaccine-related deaths. Based on the board's expressed views, you may be surprised to hear that the science is never settled. Please stop perpetuating this lie. It is fact that school districts across the U.S. have accepted federal America Rescue Plan funds, as well as other payments and grants, some made directly from vaccine manufacturers and very health agencies poised to profit from such a requirement. With nearly $1.1 billion in ARP funds allocated to Oregon school districts, it's clear PPS has accepted these funds on the condition of strict adherence to the CDC's guidance, as evidenced by the district's Safe Return to Schools document. Among other harmful measures, it states vaccination as the leading public health prevention strategy to end the COVID-19 pandemic. So I ask you sincerely, as the primary advocate for my child, do we as parents and concerned community members still have a say in this decision? Or has the decision already been made as implied by the district's acceptance of these funds? Over the past 20 months, I feel completely unheard and unrepresented on protocols that have a huge implication on our children. Be clear, if COVID-19 vaccine requirements come to pass in this district, you will be personally held responsible.
Thank you.
Michelle Dewberry.
Good evening. My name is Michelle Dewberry. Last name is Dubbarry. I am the mom of 2 third graders at Beach Elementary School in North Portland. And Beach houses both a Spanish DLI program and a neighborhood program. My kids are on the neighborhood side, and a few weeks ago, a bunch of the parents at in my kids' class got together to talk about writing a letter to the district asking them to hire another teacher and split our class. We initially got together out of concern about COVID and overcrowding, but we quickly realized that there is a much larger issue at Beach, which is the disparity in resources between the neighborhood and the DLI program. There are 30 children in the single neighborhood third grade class, compared to 17 and 18 children in the DLI classrooms in third grade. The neighborhood class is disproportionately children of color and children from low-income families, and yet it is more crowded with fewer resources than the DLI classrooms. Each year, the DLI program gets 2 classes per grade by default, while the neighborhood side gets 1 class. And this is despite the fact that English language learners comprise approximately 10% of students at Beach. And I think I speak for all of the parents in our group that we support Spanish language instruction for English language learners, and it totally makes sense to extend that opportunity to some English-speaking families. But the program at Beach has evolved into what is widely perceived as an enrichment program for racially and economically advantaged families, and this is to the detriment of students on the neighborhood side. Every new student who arrives at Beach in grades 1 through 5 is placed in the neighborhood classroom, and DLI students who are struggling behaviorally or academically are often transferred out of DLI into the neighborhood classroom. And so the result is a situation where children with the highest needs are concentrated in one overcrowded and under-resourced classroom. Half of the families in the DLI program reside outside of the neighborhood, and Principal Hawking recently confirmed that without the higher socioeconomic status of many of the DLI families from outside the neighborhood, that Beach would qualify for Title I funding. And so this raises 2 questions that I want to ask you tonight. Number 1, why haven't we transitioned to 1 DLI classroom per grade at Beach instead of 2? And number 2, why are we co-locating DLI programs within the community schools? It's resulted in a 2-tiered educational system, a school without a unified mission, and just a lot of tension between the teachers and the parents and the students. So in closing, I just want to urge the district, number one, please hire a teacher for third grade at Beach on the neighborhood side. And number two, make whatever adjustments you need to make to ensure that all of the children have access to the resources they need at Beach to succeed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Brett Rockhill.
Thank you, school members. Can you hear me? Okay.
We can.
My
Thank
last
you.
name is spelled Rockhill. Look, we all just want to do something about COVID, but I have to ask you, why would we vote to mandate a vaccine that's performed so poorly so soon in this game? Oregon is now 76% vaccinated. Where on this chart would you guess that we got vaccinated? I would guess right here, right at this last spike, but that's not the case. Was this last spike just a bunch of unvaccinated people? No, according to the Oregon Health Authority, 25% of this spike was vaccinated people, known as breakthroughs. They got sick and volunteered to get tested. But we don't know how many more vaccinated people just didn't get tested. Now look. Did I have it backwards? Okay. Here's Israel, 85% vaccinated. They administered the vaccine sooner to more people. So why the spike here? According to their health ministry, it was a 59% breakthrough. But is there a place that's 100% vaccinated? Yes, Cuba.
Of course. They have the lowest infant mortality.
Now you would think a place that's 100% vaccinated would have no spike. But here it is. So do you realize that 43 states and almost all countries don't even report breakthrough cases? And I have two real-world observations. First, my dad's care facility was 100% vaccinated. But in the last 2 months, 2/3 of them came down with Delta. That's 100% breakthrough. Or consider my extended family. We all recently just recovered from Delta, infected from 4 different sources, 3 of which were vaccinated people. Now, were some of us vaccinated? Yes. Did we get COVID? Yes. Now, the worst part is that CNN reports just last week that 2 real-world studies are showing that the effectiveness of Pfizer drops off.
It's upside down, but we can't read it anyway.
Well,
so thank
the
you.
effectiveness of Pfizer drops off after just 2 months. So, folks, polio and the measles are stable viruses. That's why their vaccines work. But COVID is a changing virus. These last 2 spikes in Oregon were not the same virus. We made the vaccine based on the first one, but then the second one showed up. Anyway, I see my time is up. My last question is a financial integrity question. Yes, $1.1 billion is coming to Oregon. Is there an expectation or an incentive for vaccinating kids that don't need it? Thank you.
Thank you. So I just want to remind you, I appreciate your comments, and feel free to contact our board senior manager, Roseanne Powell, if you have anything specifically you'd like to follow up with the board office. We're going to go to committee reports. Student Representative Weinberg, would you please provide your report?
Yes, I know we're a bit behind, so I'll be super quick with mine. Just 2 things for these last 2 weeks. The first is in our consent agenda, we passed approval of a couple board members to attend the Council of Great City Schools annual conference, which is super exciting because I will also be in attendance. And I was actually invited to be on a panel of students at that annual conference as well. So hopefully this will be a continuing trend for Council of Great City Schools to continue to integrate student voice. As with previous two weeks prior, we mentioned the adding of monthly meetings for student board members. And this is just yet another place where Council of Great City Schools and Portland, Oregon, nationwide is moving towards incorporating student voice in education decisions. And the second quick thing is PPS's climate crisis response policy is currently in community engagement, but more specifically student engagement processes right now. So the survey that's projected right now, I'm asking that if you are watching and would be willing to please scan that and to fill out the quick survey. It shouldn't take too long. It kind of depends how many thoughts you want to add to the free response questions. But just knowing that your responses are coming to the board and will be used to evaluate our climate crisis response policy and hopefully make it better. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And that's awesome about the student voice. I know you're a huge advocate, and I really appreciate serving with you. We're going to move to conference and committee reports. Does anybody have any updates about the committees you'd like to provide at this time? And this is another reminder again, just to be mindful of when you do have committee meetings that require time of staff. Understand they might be on a playground or in a lunchroom. So if to the extent that you can move your meetings back, and we're asking for about approximately mid-November to give staff a break from having to prepare materials for your meetings. Do we have a report from the audit committee, Director Constam?
Just that we're having a meeting this Thursday, the 14th. The materials have been loaded up into board books, so I encourage everyone to take a look at that. We'll be receiving the P-card audit, which is one of the major audits that was conducted in the last year. So take a look at that and join us if you can. And also just another plug that we have 2 positions on the audit committee for community members to join us. And if any of you, I'd appreciate it if you could reach out to people. If people have questions, send them my way. And that's it.
Great, thank you. Charter and Alternative Programs, Director Green.
I'll be brief. We had they made me a note. I'm just going to read it. I'm just going to read it.
When you say brief, everyone laughs. So do you get that?
Right. I get it. We had a meeting where we got an update on a charter school that had an application out, and so the staff is reviewing it now, and if it turns out that they've done everything they need to do, then they'll schedule a hearing to start the process for approval. So we're waiting on that. We had a funding update where my guy Norberto, where's he at? There he is. He went through some stuff with us about our CBOs and the SIA account and thank you, sir. So that was 8. That was great. The charter school, Portland Arthur Academy. Gosh, dog. So they got to share a little bit about their academy and what they do, and it sounds fantastic to the point where I said, I've got to go see this school. Their presentation was absolutely amazing. The way that they were talking about engaging with the kids, it really made me want to be there. Then we also heard from Portland Youth Builders, who came, and one of the kids that they had been working with was a kid that I know. And so I was able to hear about some of the changes that he's made, how he's really gravitated to the program, and how other kids are really taking to that learning differently about using their hands, applying the skill, and really going on beyond the actual school year, working with them 3 to 6 months after the fact, just to make sure that they're getting on the right page, that they're in the right trade, that they are going in the direction that they want to go. So I was really excited about hearing that. 9 now. And our next meeting is November 10th. For those of you that wonder what the number is, I'm trying to cut back on my ums. And I have said 9 of them. And thank you to my guy. for bringing that to my attention. So I'm going to get better, I promise. That's it.
Fantastic. Thank you. Intergovernmental, Director Lowry.
No report. We're meeting in November. See you then.
Thanks for following directions. Facilities and Operations, Director Hollins.
No report. Our next meeting is on the 27th.
And Elections Task Force, Director Scott.
Nothing to report.
I like the brevity. So tonight we have the first readings of the three proposed revised policies. 5.05.020P, Liability of Employees of the District. 1.70.020P, Policies and Administrative Directives. And 5.60.031P, Vacations and District Holidays. Director Brem Edwards, would you like to introduce these next items?
And while I didn't give a committee report, I should just note that we have a meeting from 4 to 6 on October 19th. And if anybody wants to comment on any of these policies that we're first reading tonight, that would be an appropriate place. So the three policies that were referred from the committee for a first reading or for introduction, the first one is the liability of employees of the district. This is a carryover policy that last year's policy committee had looked at, but had not completed its work on. It's essentially just updates language and then adds an additional section that's narrowly focused on providing representation for in-house attorneys who are facing regulatory proceedings and in cases where the in-house attorney was acting in the course of their role and did not engage in misconduct. The committee recommends these revisions for a first reading tonight. The second policy is what we call the policy on policies, and actually there's a policy and administrative directive. And when the committee started its work this year, we looked at what policies we might refresh and review, and a natural place to start was the policy that describes our policy development process. And ironically, most of that was described in the administrative directive. So what we're doing, what the committee is recommending, is taking the language that was in the administrative directive and putting it in the policy, the appropriate place for it to be. Administrative directive is really the implementing of policy. So this is really just a lift and a shift with some other additional minor immaterial changes being made to the policy. Staff has indicated that after the policy's been the revised policy has been adopted, that the administrative directive will be rescinded. So again, the committee recommends a first reading of that policy tonight. The third policy that came out of the policy committee for a recommended for first reading and introduction tonight relates to vacation eligibility and scheduling for non-represented employees. As we were looking at the superintendent's contract and what vacation holidays were offered to non-represented employees, a review of the PPS policy revealed that we actually have two vacation policies that were very detailed and actually in conflict. And then apart from that, there was also an HR schedule that outlined a current practice of vacation accrual, and also the holidays were in a different place. And those were all different from the two policies. So what the policy committee is recommending is that a very simple, streamlined policy that the superintendent develop a vacation accrual schedule to be approved by the board in the form of a resolution. The schedule then would be publicly posted. Any addition of paid holidays for non-represented employees would also be approved by a resolution and posted. So what this policy does is it essentially replaces two outdated policies, which were very detailed and outline specific vacation accrual schedules. And this just creates a process. So the committee is recommending the first reading of this revised policy, and then we're also later in a moment going to be recommending rescinding two policies that in effect will be replaced by this new modified policy. So those are the three substantive policies that are coming tonight for a first reading. We also have 7 policies that the policy committee has recommended be rescinded or deleted from our policy manual. And those include a policy, the concept of administration, a policy on additional building administration personnel, visitors to building, certification, substitute teachers, religious holidays, work year vacations. And if board members and the community want to look at the reasons we're recommending these policies be rescinded, the reasons range from the provisions are governed by a collective bargaining agreement to things that are statements in a policy, but they actually aren't policy. So with that, I say that the committee is recommending those tonight for a first reading, the 3 and then the 7 rescissions. So these will all be posted on the board website, and the public comment period is a minimum of 21 days on these policies. The contact information for public comment is also posted with the policy. And then the board will hold a second reading, or put more layman's term, adoption of the policy revisions and rescissions at our November 2nd meeting after we've taken into consideration any public comment we have received. And that's back to you, Chair DePass.
It looks like Director Scott.
And I just wanted to be clear, is now the time to ask questions about the policy? You said this at the very beginning, Director Brim-Edwards, but I missed it.
Yeah, so these are being first read, so now there'll be 21 days. So you can tell us what your question, if you have questions, you could share them tonight, and but we'll have 21 days where we'll consider public comment, answer questions. So your preference if you want to surface questions tonight, but they're not being adopted, they're just being introduced.
Got it. So I will ask my question. I think it's around the vacation and district holidays for non-represented employees. And I guess I'd be curious to hear the policy committee's rationale for still requiring board approval of a vacation schedule for employees. I can elaborate more on that if you want to know my thinking.
I would be interested in hearing, yes. And also, I apologize. I forgot to call you for your committee report, which might have provided some context. So my apologies. And then you jumped into the rescissions, which is fine. I just want to acknowledge that was my mistake, everybody. So
yeah, that's
and feel free
fine.
to,
It was a good segue anyway, because tonight's first readings is really a report on what we've been working on. We also will be hearing comments back on the climate. So Director Scott, would you like an answer now, or do you want to wait for our committee discussion or at a later point in time?
Oh, either one. I wasn't sure if the committee had already discussed this in terms of right. You mentioned that there were different vacation policies, which is great. I'm glad we're clarifying that and consolidating them. I think that's great. I'm curious from a policy perspective why the committee is recommending a policy that still requires board approval of a vacation accrual schedule.
So just in short, and we can have a more detailed conversation. This was a conversation with staff about how we do this. With most other employee groups, the terms of employment are set by their collective bargaining agreement. And in this case, this policy only applies to non-represented employees, and in some cases, the highest paid and most senior members of the or highly compensated employees of the district. So the sense that it be transparent, it be set, but it's still based on a recommendation from the superintendent, but it's not we're setting in place a policy for how it's approved and transparent, but not actually setting it in policy.
Okay. I mean, I'll just say now, and we can talk about it in 3 weeks, and I may be the only one on the board. Setting vacation accrual schedules, I agree with you. Those are often included in collective bargaining agreements. They're not required to be included, but often labor wants them included, which is why a board would approve that, because state law requires the board to approve collective bargaining agreements. When it comes to non-represented vacation accrual, that's a purely operational decision, and it's something that, in my view, the executive leader of a government, whether it's a city manager or a superintendent, should have flexibility to make that decision. I think as a board, it strikes me as odd that we would be making decisions about whether employees should be getting 3.5 weeks or 4 weeks, or when they should be getting that, or when it should go up. I could see an argument maybe for the board capping vacation, saying, a vacation accrual schedule that does not exceed any more than, I think we're at 21 days, right? So 4 weeks in a day. Getting down into those details and even though I'm glad we're taking those details out of policy, but the policy still requires us to approve by resolution the schedule. I am fully confident leaving that to the superintendent, because frankly, if a superintendent messes that up, that's something the board can deal with as part of the superintendent's evaluation, rather than diving into the details. So that would be my thoughts on this.
I would add to that, Director Scott, that we're trying to get out of the business of having matters that are pro forma in policy. And the fact is, it's unlikely that the board's going to be having substantive discussion on that. We're going to be accepting what the superintendent's recommendation is for management of staff on something like that. So this is exactly the kind of thing that we're trying to excise from our policies.
Well, and even further, if the board did have substantive conversation and overturned the superintendent's recommendation, that's a whole different issue then of sort of second guessing the operational decisions around it. So I'm in agreement with you. Yeah.
I would like to say on the flip side of that, though, he could have a wild hair one day and decide, you know what, I'm going to get this person because I like them 12 weeks of vacation time, or 4 months or 6 months of vacation time because I like them, and I don't like this person, and I'm only going to give them a month of vacation time. So by having something in place, I don't want to be in the space where I have to approve everything, but there has to be some level of guidance, something that says you can't do more than this, and you shouldn't be doing less than that, and anything in between there, however you choose to do it. I'm cool with that, but to say you got a free range to do whatever you want to do, and I trust you, I don't trust nobody like that.
Yeah, and again, I would go back to say I could see an argument for a cap, right? I could see an argument for no less than 2 weeks, no more than 4 weeks. I guess I would also point out there are thousands of operational decisions the superintendent could make that he could screw up, that we don't control. So the superintendent could hire every single non-rep employee at the top of scale, or the superintendent could hire every single non-rep employee at the bottom of scale, both of which would be really bad operational decisions, that we don't have a board policy directing that, because we hire a superintendent we trust to be able to make those decisions. And frankly, if a superintendent does get a wild hair and starts doing crazy stuff, that's also when a board steps in and says, you know what, this is not okay. So I worry about the over management of these operational decisions, because we don't know all the things that are going into the decisions that he's making every day.
Right. I just like policy in place that says this is what I can hold you accountable to, and this is what I can't. And right now, to just have just an open slate that says do whatever you want to do, and I trust you, that's what I'm not okay with. So maybe as part of our discussion when we come back around, maybe what we're really talking about is, again, I'm picking on him because I feel like, he can handle it. But maybe what we're discussing is the wild hair and how we got to where we're at right now as to why there's a policy in place. Red Bull no longer says, it'll give you wings, because somebody actually sued Red Bull because they thought it was going to give them wings and they didn't get it. And so therefore we make policies because of something that happened. Something happened. And so we need to have a policy in place to ensure that it doesn't happen again.
So I would say we have, HR practices. So we already have, in the things we here for rescission, there were some different scopes, but I know we have from Ms. Reese what the current practice has been around vacation. And I think the intention of this policy was to sort of formalize that range, right? And so we're not going to approve, vacation for every employee, but sort of a range of here's the standard practice at PPS. And it's already something it's already in practice what this is, and it's already written out for people to know when they sign up what they can expect as employees. But it is also somewhat at the superintendent's discretion. So I hear what you're saying, Director Scott, about not wanting to get us involved in the nitty-gritty of some of these decisions, and I think that's really what this intention of this policy is to remove the board and not to have it in policy so we don't have to change policy when we need to make adjustments, but to have some structure and scope and some cover for the superintendent and HR to say these are what the board has approved.
Yeah, thank you, Director Lowry, because I think that was the intention, is to take the detailed prescriptive. If you've been the district for 3 years, you get X number of days. If you've been there 4 years, you get, Y number of days. So this is really laying out a process and just making it transparent, but it's very much driven by the superintendent with, I believe, sort of an appropriate high-level check and balance and transparency to the public. But it specifically is removing, I think, the thing that you have articulated in the past that you don't want to have in policy, which is very detailed, prescriptive, board direction on how many days of vacation, which the district isn't following it anyway.
Yeah, I think my concern is that we have a schedule that we can agree on, and allow the superintendent flexibility. That's one of the things. That's on the table regularly when you're hiring someone is vacation, and they will ask for 50% or 25% additional. I've done it before. So as long as it's flexible, provides flexibility to attract top talent. I think are we going to move on then? Does anybody else have any other comment rather?
So if anybody else has comments at the community or other board members, we do have this 21-day period where we can discuss any additional ideas or questions that people have. But Madam Chair, that is for those first readings. That's all we need tonight is in terms of getting them out for public comment.
All right, thank you. Have we, Ms. Powell, have we received any comment on those policy rescissions since they've been identified?
We have not.
Do I have a motion and a second to adopt Resolution 6381, resolution to rescind board policies? That should be a question mark.
So moved.
Second.
Director Constam moves and Director Scott seconds the adoption of Resolution 6381. Is there any further discussion?
I want to say that this will be the first of many policies, rescissions that are going to be coming to the board. We've committed to really try and focus on those that are most important and that will help guide and set the overall policy direction for the district. So tonight, these were the first four. And since we received no comment either in the committee or from the public, so hopefully the board will adopt and rescind these four policies.
Thank you. And so we're slimming down that policy manual. That's a theme here.
I just want to say thank you to Director Brim Edwards for her work in leading the policy committee through this exercise of looking at some of our policies and really slimming it down. And I especially want to thank Ms. Large and Mary Kane, Sharon Reese, and several other staff that have put in tons of time going through our policy manual, looking at policies that need to come out and helping us have these conversations. And if you all want to see it later, I have a picture of Ms. Large holding up a policy that has like one word on a piece of paper because that's all the policy said. So getting rid of those kinds of things and making it, again, as we talk about, what Jackson said the other night about making sure that what we do is student-centered, to have our policies, well in hand, slimmed down, easily accessible to people is going to be really important. And we had a lovely conversation at the last policy committee meeting about translating our policies into our languages. and helping really make our policies accessible to people so that they can use them to navigate PPS. So again, thank you, Ms. Large, for your work on this, and Director Brim-Edwards for your advocacy on how we make policies better and more accessible for our families and students.
Director Lowry, I should have just have you give my committee report, because that was, I think, one of the big things that came out of the last week's meeting is right now our policies that I know of have only ever been available in English versus the other languages that we try and support. So that is a topic that we're going to look at, and hopefully our policies will be not only relevant and set the direction for the district, but also be accessible to more families.
I hope we make them more understandable too. We're now going to vote on Resolution 6381, resolution to rescind board policies. All in favor, please indicate by saying yes.
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 Yes. All opposed, please indicate by saying no. Are there any abstentions? Resolution 63 is approved by a vote of 7-0 with Student Representative Weinberg voting.
Yes.
Thank you. The next, thank you, Director Brim-Edwards. Our next item is the approval of the budget calendar to prepare the district's 2022-23 budget. Do I have a motion and a second to adopt Resolution 6382,
Motion.
resolution to approve the budget calendar to prepare for the 22-23 budget?
So moved.
Someone's had some
Second.
coffee.
I think it's my bad influence sitting over here.
We're going to separate you at the next meeting. Director Hollins moves and Director Lowry seconds the adoption of Resolution 6382. Is there any board discussion? And is there any public comment?
I just would like to express appreciation that we had a discussion last meeting about some opportunities for sort of a deeper dive into the budget this year, just given the size of the budget and also the COVID recovery money we have. And I'm appreciative that what we're voting on today reflects that discussion. So thank you.
We're all celebrating over here, Director Brim-Edwards, because we're on time on the agenda at 7:50, and we started this item at 7:50, and we started a little late today, so we're all impressed with Michelle's facilitation skills and keeping us on the ball over here.
I received some critical feedback around my facilitation skills, which I took to heart. So whether we're done talking at 8:20 tonight or not, we're leaving. So just giving everybody a heads up. We're going to move on now. I'm sorry.
Thank you, CFO Delgadillo, for being available in case there were questions.
Thank you. Thank you. We appreciate you being here at this time of night. We're going to have an update now on the Southeast Guiding Coalition.
I didn't
Oh,
hear
I'm
a vote.
sorry. We did not vote. We were so happy about being on time. We've now lost about 4 minutes goofing around. The board will now vote on Resolution 6382, a resolution to approve the budget calendar to prepare for the 2022-2023 budget. All in favor, please indicate by saying yes.
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 All opposed, please indicate by saying no. And are there any abstentions? Resolution 6382 is approved by a vote of 7-0 with Student Representative Weinberg voting.
Yes.
Great. Thank you for everybody for keeping us on time. This is a practice we need to do at least through mid-November. Mindful that staff has to be here. We're now going to have an update on the Southeast Guiding Coalition. Superintendent Guerrero, would you like to provide an update?
Yes, Chair. As you know, the board has made a priority enrollment balancing. That started with a phase 1 in the southeast portion of the city in the fall 2020. As you know, that resulted in the conversion of 5 K-8 schools, as well as new boundary and program assignments for Kellogg Middle School, which were proudly opened this fall. In May, the board adopted a Phase 2 charge centered on converting Harrison Park from a K-8 to a middle school and increasing enrollment as a goal at Lane Middle School. So we have Deputy Superintendent Claire Hertz and guests here to speak to the Phase 2 charge, as well as Southeast Guiding Coalition and community engagement timeline and other related enrollment issues. So Deputy Superintendent Hurst and guests.
Good evening, Chair DePass, Vice Chair Scott, Board of Directors, and Superintendent Guerrero. Our Southeast Guiding Coalition Phase 2 process began last spring and will continue through December. Our goals of the process are based on the charge from the board to focus on balancing our middle schools in the Southeast region. We have some members of our leadership team here tonight to share some highlights of the process. Dr. Emma Bain, Regional Superintendent of Elementary Schools, will talk about the Southeast Guiding Coalition membership. Director of Community Engagement, Shanice Clark, will talk about the charter to guide our work and the design of the process. And Karina Ruiz of Brick Architecture is here, who has been facilitating our community engagement. After our brief presentation, we'll respond to questions and would like to gather board input on the work to date. And now I'll turn it over to Dr. O.
Good evening, Chair DePass, directors, and Superintendent Guerrero. We have a guiding coalition of local parents, principals, racial equity and social justice partners, and community members representing the interests of their schools and communities. The coalition will strive to support racial equity, social justice, middle school redesign, balanced enrollment, and optimized facilities used for the 22-23 school year and beyond. I am pleased to introduce our co-chairs, Adriel Pearson and Beth Kavanaugh. They will not be presenting tonight, but I really do want them to introduce themselves to our board of directors. Adriel?
Good evening. My name is Adrielle Person. I am an advocate for students. I work as a partner with PPS in my professional life, but I'm also a parent of a first grader at Richmond Elementary School / Online Learning Academy right now. So I'm highly invested in this process and finding out ways to create an opportunity for a voice for parents like me, but also to get a better understanding of how these decisions are made so that I can share that wisdom with my community.
All right. And next we have Beth Kavanaugh.
Hi there, I'm Beth Kavanaugh, and I was a parent representative on DBRAC prior to the opening of Tubman and Roseway Heights Middle Schools, and as a longtime Southeast Portland resident and parent of 2 Southeast Portland middle schoolers at Hosford Middle School, I'm very excited to see this process through and be part of the work that we're doing now.
Thank you very much. Several principals have also volunteered to represent the Southeast Guiding Coalition in this process, and all the principals from the Southeast Guiding Coalition schools have opportunities to submit input into the process. Ms. Shanice Clark will talk to you about the community engagement piece of it. Thank you.
Hello, Chair DePass, Director, Student Representative. I'd like to just introduce you all to our charter for the Southeast Guiding Coalition. And it's really meant to illustrate the focus and the direction of the work they are taking on for this process. And so in alignment with the board's charge, the charter really includes the representation of schools that are impacted by our Phase 2 process, in addition to operating guidelines. Then they really help clarify the different roles that show up within our coalition and how the public is able to interact with the process during meetings and outside of meetings. And also the recommendation process is something that we help clarify with the charter in this phase. But I will name that our process this year is really in line with our theory of action and commitments to racial equity and social justice, and really wanting to ground before any work or scenarios began to really hold space to understand the thoughts and experiences and priorities of our Black, Indigenous, and people of color in our Southeast communities. And so a listening and learning phase has really grounded the first element of our work. And then we will transition into ideas and input, where we're taking that grounding that we have learned in the first element into that scenario building, and then action and accountability to really make that recommendation process real. And so now I would like to pass it over to Karina Ruiz from Brick Architecture, who will be sharing more about our community engagement process.
Good evening. Thank you, Shanice. Good evening, Chair DePass, directors, and Superintendent Guerrero. It's my pleasure to be here tonight to talk a little bit about the community engagement process. As Shanice said, this process was intentionally designed to foreground the voices of those historically impacted by inequity in the district. It's the first phase that we're in now, which is listening and learning, is really geared to better understand what I'm going to call kind of the micro problems that these communities face. So that way we can better inform the development of the preliminary scenarios, right? I like to say that we are talking to people who are traditionally closest to the problems and experiences and furthest from solutions, right? That's our goal in foregrounding these affinity sessions. We've held them in that way in affinity sessions in multiple languages. I will say that due to a variety of things that we could not control, right? COVID outbreaks at some of our targeted schools, just I think Zoom parent fatigue. I will say that we have not been able to get the numbers that we were looking for, but we have gotten really good input from those that have been part of the process. And the Southeast Guiding Coalition is really committed to kind of honor these voices and not let them get drowned out by the louder majority voices. That's been a key theme of the Southeast Guiding Coalition moving forward. And we continue to look for ways to continue to foreground the voices of Black, Indigenous, people of color in this process as we make our way through ideas and input, where we give people, and we specifically go back to these communities to present and discuss these scenarios in the context of the comments that they gave us, the definition of challenges that they had, and seek their input. And then we will continue as we refine these to go back to those same communities as well as other communities for outcomes and accountability. And I think that's the end of our presentation, right?
That is correct. And now we'd open it turn it back to you, Chair DePass, for any Q&A from the board, as well as input into the progress of the work to date. Thank you.
Thank you. I believe there was a meeting, was it last Thursday, of the Southeast Guiding Coalition that I did not attend. I was out of town. I don't know if anybody from the board that was at the meeting would like to give a brief update. He just left. Okay. Gary? Mr. Hollins? Okay. He's Director Brim Edwards, were you also in attendance? So do you have an update as to the work, and maybe you can remind people when the meetings are?
Yeah, I did attend the meetings, but I'm not sure that I think the presentation tonight and the materials that we have provided a good update. I think there's a lot of sort of setting the table for the discussions coming up. So I'm not sure that I have anything to add besides what's been presented. I do want to thank Ms. Pearson and Kavanaugh for stepping up in the leadership position. It's not an easy one, and for all the school staff participating. I did have a couple comments on the document when we get to that point in time. Maybe on the Ms. Hertz, you could share the meeting schedule. It's every other week through the end of the year.
It's a little bit, there's a little variation from that, but there is certainly on our website, we do have the whole calendar of the process. We do have an upcoming work session on a Saturday as well that will, because as we're rolling out scenarios, because it will take some time to review those with the Guiding Coalition.
There is one thing I'd like to just call the board's attention to in the materials that I think warrants a potential separate discussion, and that's the included in the Southeast Guiding Coalition materials is the discussion about the high school enrollment rebalancing. And I don't think most high school parents, I think, this isn't even in sort of their realm of thinking of that there's a conversation occurring. So I would just be, so that we don't have a misunderstanding among communities, that we sort of separate that out versus sort of lumping it together with the Southeast Guiding Coalition, because it really is different. There's different representation, different goals. So I say it does deal with enrollment balancing, but it is a separate topic. And I think we need to make sure that the communities that are potentially impacted are aware of that and know how they can engage if at the particular time.
Thank you. So, on that theme, we're operating in an environment that it wasn't as easy as opening schools up and flipping a switch, turning the lights on. And so we're still very much involved in pandemic response. And, in the meantime, the Southeast Guiding Coalition work needs to go forward. So I want to appreciate staff, Ms. Ruiz and Ms. Clark and Dr. O, particularly for centering those students that are, I think, Ms. Ruiz, you said the furthest from the problem, or the closest to the problem and the furthest from the solution. I really appreciate that framing. I learn every time you speak, I learn more about how to frame these issues. So I want to appreciate you both for that focus.
Thank you, Chair. You beat me to saying the same thing because this is complex work, and do want to appreciate, you heard earlier, the thoughtfulness in capturing everyone's voices. We're dealing with a lot of school communities who obviously will have many thoughts, and that's what we want, is that kind of input. So thank you, Dr. O, Shanice, and the team. Thank you.
And Ms. Person and Ms. Kavanaugh, also, thank you for your parent perspective. I mean, it's necessary. It makes the work better, and it's also a lot of work. So I appreciate it. I know it doesn't pay very well, so I appreciate your advocacy on behalf of the entire board. I also appreciate everyone's brevity because I think we're actually going to.
Chair
Okay.
Pass. I know you're running to the door.
We're actually not. We've got all the time in the world.
So there was one issue in the charter that I wanted to just potentially maybe make a suggestion on a change. In the materials that were shared at the very end, it talks about the decision-making framework and kind of walks through the framework that's going to be used. And then it says, and I'm speaking to this because it's speaking to the board's role. It says the Board of Education makes the final decision and can adjust the recommendation based on engagement, and then it lists a number of groups. And I think that just wanting to be, transparent with the Southeast Guiding Coalition, that we may make decisions based on our experiences in the school system, some set of data from enrollment and balancing. And I think this language at the very end could be portrayed as how, if the board made a different decision or modified the decision, it's they could only modify it for these reasons, which there might be a whole host of reasons. So I would just suggest that we change that that charter change. I don't know that we're signing it, but I don't want to give the wrong impression to the members of the coalition about why board members may change things, because there's a whole variety of things that people bring and information and experiences they bring to the process. And so Ms. Hertz, we're not being asked to sign this, but I just think we should be more clear about the board's prerogative to make changes.
So thank you for bringing both of these issues up, Director Brim Edwards. The first thing is the on the high school enrollment balancing. We do anticipate doing a full district-wide enrollment balancing process. It won't be in the Southeast Guiding Coalition. It'll be a district-wide high school process, but we are not trying to do that in the same year as the Southeast Guiding Coalition. We do recognize that there's overcrowding in some high schools, and I do have Regional Superintendent Margaret Calvert, I believe, in the boardroom that has a few things to share with what she has been working with principals and discussing possible solutions.
Great, thank you.
Good evening, Chair DePass, Board of Directors, Superintendent Guerrero. Thank you for having us here tonight. And just a brief, I just have a few brief comments about what we're seeing with high school enrollment. I apologize, I'm gonna have to flip my glasses up. I'm fogging up here, so. There are a couple of things that we're noticing. One is that we are seeing an increase in high school enrollment. And so we are anticipating the projections for high school enrollment to increase through at least the 24-25 school year. This year, the projections, we have seen an increase beyond the projections. And what we're also seeing is that it is not evenly distributed throughout the city. And as we are looking through and trying to, we're recognizing that with the bringing online new schools, which is the modernized schools, has had an incredible impact across the city. And just want to again thank the board and the voters for continuing that investment. And as we've gone through, we're seeing that there are some capacity pieces that are showing up. Each year, when we look at what happens with enrollment, we have to make decisions about how to best meet the needs of schools. And this fall, we were pleasantly surprised to see increased enrollments at a number of schools. And we're seeing for the first time in many years enrollments of over 2,000 students at two of our schools in particular, and also seeing capacity issues. So what we're seeing is that those enrollments are staying at above 2,000, and they are staying that way through the next, again, through at least 24-25. As far as site capacity, it means that we're seeing that the utilization of the buildings are exceeding 115% for the next 4 years. So each year, as I said, we look at what is happening with enrollment, and we have to make some decisions about how to use space, what does that look like, and how does that play out. We are engaging in that process with our principals initially to say, hey, where are we seeing some tension points and what are some avenues of action? So that's really what we're looking at for this. We need to make some decisions about how to best meet the needs of our students in our high schools in some specific locations for the fall. So that's really what the process that we're interested in engaging in. As Deputy Superintendent Hertz mentioned, we will look at a system-wide process in the coming year, and that will include weaving together some of the pieces with the next bond project and modernization and the Center for Black Student Excellence and Jefferson High School.
As to the second issue that was raised, Director Brim Edwards, the charter is written for the benefit of the Southeast Guiding Coalition membership and isn't intended certainly the board is welcome to read it and understand it and digest it, but it wasn't intended as a direction to the board. It's really giving us guidance, kind of setting the framework for our work as a Southeast Guiding Coalition. And if you remember in phase 1, there was a change by the board after the Southeast Guiding Coalition made a recommendation. So we wanted to be sure the Southeast Guiding Coalition understood. Certainly it's not limited to what was listed there, and we can make that clearer, but just making it clear to the Southeast Guiding Coalition that the board makes the final decision. And it is quite possible that what the recommendation of the Southeast Guiding Coalition brings forward could be approved and accepted by the board, and it's also possible that there will be changes along the way.
I think what I'm hearing is that the engagement strategy is in the middle of the community engagement strategy, from just informing one-way information to like literally empowering stakeholders. And I'm hearing that the Southeast Guiding Coalition is tasked with doing this body of work and hopefully in collaboration with the board. I mean, there are several of us that attend those meetings regularly, and yeah, I'm really interested to see how it works out. But it sounds like the Southeast community has a big stake in what the outcomes look like.
Sure.
And as they should.
And we will have future updates to the board. We want to continue to bring the process forward, and we'll be inviting the full board to the open houses that we'll be having later this fall. So we will continue to engage with the board throughout the whole process. So thank you for having us here tonight.
Can I just add, I'm sorry, a follow-up question, because I'm not quite clear yet. So the explicit call out of the potential enrollment balancing with the Grant High School and the Franklin High School communities as schools that are currently over 2,000 students, and then the Jefferson High School process, which is under-enrolled without a neighborhood boundary. I'm not clear. I appreciate there's going to be a longer term all high school processes, but what's the process going to be for those, specifically the Franklin and Grant, which sounds like it's going to happen in the next couple of months with some recommendations, unless I'm misunderstanding. What is that process going to be? Is it going to be standalone, that something's brought to the board separate from the Southeast Guiding Coalition, or what is that process? Sorry.
So we are still putting this work together. We're working internally with staff and with principals and multiple departments together, but we will be bringing something back to the board and sharing that with the community as possibilities of solutions of helping with that overcrowding. In the meantime, until we can get the full process going forward. So at this point, we are still, that's in draft mode and design mode, and we're not quite ready to bring that forward at this point in time. But we will certainly be bringing it to the board and sharing it with the community in the next coming months.
It's not like somebody would, the community members would, if Grant and Franklin community members were interested in that process, it wouldn't be like they'd need to start attending the Southeast Guiding Coalition meetings, because that's
not part of the Southeast Guiding Coalition process.
It happens to be in the same materials.
Just to understand, as we make changes to middle school boundaries and balancing for Lane and Harrison Park becoming a middle school, the elementary schools will have changes, the middle schools will have changes, and then eventually those students that are currently in elementary and middle will have changes, could have changes in their high school. So I want to be clear that it'd be years in the future, but just to understand that when you're working at elementary and middle school balancing, that will have an impact on high school in the future.
But the short-term pressure on Franklin and Grant communities, that will be a separate process, not we're going to wait till the elementary school changes.
No, we will bring something back to you later this year. That's correct.
Okay. I want to thank you, Deputy Superintendent Hertz, and everyone else on the call, Shanice Clark, Ms. Calvert. Is there any other business at this time before we adjourn? Okay, we are adjourned.
Thank you.
That was like a minute before.